What would you do if you saw a shadow in your home at night? With options like run away and fight it. Find out in this horror-chilling story. The House on Wicker Street. It was supposed to be a new beginning. The Johnsons, James, his wife Clara, and their two children Sarah, 12, and little Eli, 6, were tired of city life. When they found the old Victorian house on Wicker Street for a shockingly low price, they didn't ask too many questions. Maybe they should have. The house stood tall and lonely at the edge of town, with ivy crawling up its stone walls and windows that looked like sad eyes. The moment they pulled into the driveway, Eli whispered, "This place doesn't like us." James laughed it off. Clara felt a shiver, but smiled and said, "It's just old. We'll make it home." The inside was dusty and smelled like forgotten memories. The wooden floor creaked with every step, and the staircase moaned like someone in pain. Still, the house was beautiful in its own way. High ceilings, antique furniture, a fireplace in every room. It was a steal. The first night was quiet, except for the sounds. Taps turning on by themselves, whispers with no mouths, a cold draft that always seemed to follow Sarah. Eli said he saw a man in a black hat standing in the hallway near his room. He looked like a teacher. He was smiling, but not in a nice way, he told Clara in the morning. She smiled tightly and said, "Maybe you had a dream, baby." But it wasn't a dream. On the second night, James woke up at 3 a.m. to a knock on the front door. He went down, but no one was there. He checked the cameras. They showed only static during that time. The third night, Sarah screamed from her room. When Clara and James ran in, they found her shaking. "Someone was in my closet," she cried. James checked it. Nothing. "You probably scared yourself reading scary stories again," he said, trying to smile. But deep down, he didn't believe his own words. On the fourth day, their neighbor, old Mrs. Halley, brought them a pie. She stared at the house with wide, fearful eyes. "You bought this house?" she asked in a whisper. "Yes," Clara replied. "Is something wrong?" Mrs. Halley hesitated, then sighed. "You should know. That house was once owned by a man named Mr. Adams. He was a preacher, but something happened to him. They say he lost his mind. People started dying in that house. Children went missing. One day, he just disappeared. Some say he never left." James laughed nervously. "Urban legends, right?" Mrs. Halley didn't laugh. "If you hear whispers, don't answer." That night, Sarah woke up to find her closet door open again. The light flickered, and then she saw him, tall, thin, with skin like paper and black eyes that looked through her. He tipped his hat and smiled. "Hello, Sarah," he whispered. She screamed, and this time, when James ran in, the closet was open. The light in the hallway flickered violently. Eli came running too, crying, "He's in the walls! Mr. Adams is in the walls!" James didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in the kitchen trying to calm himself with tea. At exactly 3:03 a.m., he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, dragging. He turned, but saw nothing. Then the kettle on the stove began to scream, though it wasn't turned on. The next morning, Clara found long scratches on her back. She hadn't left the bed. "I think we made a mistake coming here," she whispered. They decided to search the attic. Maybe there was something, anything, that would explain what was happening. James pulled down the ladder. The attic smelled of rot and old books. Boxes filled with newspapers, photographs, and something else. A black hat. It sat on top of an old wooden chair, untouched by dust. Eli pointed at it. "That's his hat," he whispered. "That's what he wears when he walks through the hallway at night." Suddenly, the attic door slammed shut behind them. They were trapped. The air grew colder. Oh, a deep, low growl filled the space. Not animal, not human. And then a voice, calm, gentle. "You are not welcome here." James kicked the attic door open, grabbed his family, and ran out of the house. They spent the night in a motel. "They say we leave, sell the house, whatever. It's not worth it," Clara said. But when they returned the next morning to pack their things, something had changed. The house looked normal again, warm even. The windows gleamed. The front door was slightly open. It was inviting. Maybe it was just stress, James muttered. That night, They stayed again. At exactly 3:03 a.m., the lights went out. The radio turned on by itself, playing a sermon. A man's voice echoed through the house. "Repent, for I walk in the shadow of judgment." Eli sat up in bed, eyes wide. He's coming. And Mr. Adams was just getting started. The whispering walls. They should have left, but they didn't. James convinced himself that the worst was over. He believed the house was reacting to their fear, and if they stopped fearing, it would stop haunting. He was wrong. That night, as the rain poured in sheets against the windows, the family tried to carry on like normal. Clara made stew, Sarah did homework, and Eli drew quietly at the table. He was sketching the house, but with black shadows crawling out of the windows. "Who are these, Eli?" Clara asked gently. He didn't look up. "Mr. Adams' friends. They live in the walls." Clara's spoon fell into the pot. That night the whispers returned, louder now. They weren't in the wind. They weren't echoes. They came from inside the walls. "I see you. Open the door. He wants the boy." Sarah's room grew freezing cold. Her window was shut, the heater on, but still, her breath puffed out in clouds. She turned to get an extra blanket and stopped. Handprints. Small, wet handprints covered her mirror. They weren't hers. She ran to Clara, crying. Clara came and cleaned the mirror, but the prints were already back by morning. That same day, James found a strange compartment in the basement wall while trying to check the water heater. It was covered in soot and sealed with nails and string. An old piece of paper was glued to it with red wax. The words scrawled in faded ink. "Do not open. Do not speak his name. He is bound by blood and silence." He showed Clara. "What the hell is this?" "I think we need a priest," she whispered. They drove to a small church nearby. The priest, Father Caleb, was an old man with eyes too alert for his age. When James mentioned the house and Mr. Adams, the priest's face hardened. "You should not speak that name." "But who was he?" Father Caleb sighed. "A preacher, a good man once, but obsessed with power. He believed he could speak directly to God through sacrifice. He lost his mind, or something darker took it. He killed 3 children in that house, said they were unclean. Townspeople tried to stop him, but he vanished before they could. He's a ghost now, but more than that. He's become something else." "Can you help us?" Clara asked. "I will pray, but it may not be enough. The evil in that house is ancient. It doesn't want prayer. It wants your son." When they returned home, the house smelled like burning candles and rot. The air was heavy. The lights flickered again. Clara checked the mirror in Sarah's room. The handprints had grown larger. That night, she heard whispering in her ear while she slept. She opened her eyes to find herself standing outside, barefoot in the rain, staring at the attic window. A voice in her head said, "Open the door. Let me in," she screamed. James ran out and found her trembling, covered in mud. "You were sleepwalking," he said. "No," Clara said, her voice hollow. "I wasn't dreaming." The next day, the family found a diary hidden in the floorboard beneath Sarah's bed. It belonged to a girl named Miriam Adams, the preacher's daughter. The pages were stained with tears and blood. "I see them in the walls," it read. "Father says the voices are angels, but they are not. They scratch and bite. He says if I don't obey, they'll take me too. Tonight, he will make me drink the red water. I am scared." The last page was torn in half, but one word was clear: help. Suddenly, Eli started screaming from the hallway. Clara dropped the book and ran. He was staring at the wall, crying, pointing. "Mr. Adams was in there. He said I'm his little lamb." James grabbed him and hugged him tight. "It's okay, buddy. We won't let him take you." But as they turned to go, the wall whispered, "You already have." That night, the house groaned like something alive. The walls cracked open just slightly. Long, pale fingers slid out, clawing at the air, twitching. Eyes blinked from beneath the wallpaper. Blood dripped from the ceilings. And then screams from the vents. James tried to rip down the wallpaper, revealing carvings, symbols etched into every wall. Ancient, dark symbols, ritual markings. They weren't living in a haunted house. They were living inside a ritual. Sarah stopped eating. She just sat staring at the hallway, mumbling prayers. Eli kept drawing Mr. Adams, only now the drawing showed him with horns. And Clara? Clara began changing. Her eyes grew dark underneath. She started speaking in riddles, muttering to herself, laughing when no one else was laughing. One morning she stood in the kitchen cutting onions. When James looked closer, she wasn't cutting onions. She was slicing her arm, humming a hymn. He snapped out of it and grabbed the knife. "I'm fine," she whispered. "He just needed a little taste." James cried that night, for the first time in years. He wanted to run, but the front door wouldn't open anymore. Nails had appeared across it, metal spikes piercing through the wood. Every window was sealed tight from the outside, as if the house had grown armor. They were trapped. And then Sarah screamed again, louder than ever before. They ran to her room. Her bed was upside down, sheets torn. On the ceiling, written in what looked like thick red mud, "Bring me the boy before the blood moon." Clara turned to James with wild eyes. He's not asking, he's commanding. Suddenly, the lights went out. The whole house shuddered. A voice deeper than the earth filled the air. "You are in my temple now. Give me the boy and you will live. Deny me and you will beg for death." Eli looked up at his father, shaking. "I don't want to go with him, Daddy." "You won't," James whispered, pulling him close. But he knew they were running out of time, and Mr. Adams was getting closer.